Hey, Bloomies. It's your girl, Kris with a K. And for those of you who are new here, you're listening to the Blooming Lately podcast, which is a podcast for late bloomers by a late bloomer, such as me, because I believe that we are not late, we're just blooming on our own time. I decided to hit record because I was on TikTok scrolling like the rest of us, and I did a stitch with her name, her TikTok page name is EV Mommy and Co, I believe, but I will tag it. And she was motivating millennials to go back to school, whether you were a good student or not. And I immediately, before I could even finish watching the rest of her message, which I'm sure is amazing, she is an educator, from what I was able to like quickly glance on her page, and or at least curriculum educate. Child, she does amazing things. Support that Black woman. And I said, immediately, let me stitch while I had it on my heart because I overstand. And as somebody who, within the last couple of weeks or so, has been trying to wrap her mind around having an ADHD or even an ADHD, I guess that's how you would say it, diagnosis. I am going through the process, so don't come at me. I've already started one part of the evaluation. I will be continue on. And even then, that first part of the official evaluation, they were like, you have strong indicators of ADHD. So we're going to move you on to the next step for further confirmation. So we at least have those foundational parts of the diagnosis. And for every single assessment I have done, ding, 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 checking all the boxes. Can't you tell based off of this track, this thought track, or what, again, jumbled. And most of that, realizing a lot of the struggles that I've had as a child that are now resurfacing, or more so, how I would always describe my experience, through school or adolescence was living a double life. I always felt like I could be myself in certain spaces, but around for the most part, I had to be this performative person who followed all the rules, did everything as told, not realizing until having more information in this current day that that was masking. Baby, that was not a double life. You were masking. The person that you were performing as was the person who did all the right things, did what she was supposed to do, followed all the rules because that's what you were told. And then I did all of that with the desire to be left alone because in my alone time is where I could be my full self, disassociating my imagination being my safe space, being my playhouse, if you will. So, and other ways that I was stimming, not realizing that those were called stims. Hi, we're here. Um, but I noticed, and I've been seeing more discourse online about, I mostly follow Black millennial women, and a lot of us are getting diagnosed later, like in our 30s, and just seeing how much our minds have been blown. Um, and I'm going through it, which is a different type of grief I would have never considered. And someone on Threads mentioned like having her diagnosis and starting the process of grieving her past self, or just all of the opportunities that she didn't have and all of the unnecessary struggles that she faced and struggled through. And that hit me like a ton of bricks because going through this process of evaluation, and they ask you so many questions like how many of these things were when you were a child versus now, or have been constant. And it caused me to really reflect on how many of these characteristics and behaviors I was exhibiting as a child, or only in certain elements, or maybe it came out in different aspects, or even now how much they've magnified, and how I'm really, really struggling with a lot of things. And it made me angry. Like I'm in that phase of like I'm just so mad and pissed for younger me who struggled in school, and you know it was chalked up to, oh, you're just not paying attention, you're being hard-headed, you're being stubborn. Your girl was stuck. I just, my brain was wired differently, and instead being shamed for it or punished for it, um I guess I wasn't overly exhibiting the signs to warrant like earlier intervention. Plus, I was a kid of the 90s, and being West Indian, parents were not trying to go for any labels. The stigma around being differently abled, especially having different learning disabilities, they didn't want a label. They didn't want the stigma. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm not going to use the R word, but that was always the first thing. My kid is not that. But I definitely struggled, like daydreaming, dazing off. But however, the subjects that I always thrived in were the why are my words escaping memory, child? Um, were all of the electives. Anything of the arts, creative expression where I could be my full self, I can be free, I always love to dance. I always love music. Even performing in stage plays. I didn't get to do that in high school or even middle school because I moved, but like elementary, it's oh my God. I love drama class. Like I remember one teacher, I wish I remembered her name, but she was having us describe like very specific techniques or what did we notice about this piece of performance or something she showed. And the way I was so detailed, and that teacher I remember was so enthusiastic by my response because everybody else was just saying like, oh, they're dancing or they're wearing this. And me in fourth grade, I remember was like, oh, it's the way that the fabric was moving, the hair. Like I was into those details as a child. Um, so any kind of elective, any kind of creative outlet, that was me because that's where my imagination and my free thinking was celebrated. That's where I was allowed to just be without it. I mean, there were rules and, regular like safety things, but for the most part, my imagination was here is the time, do it freely. And as I've gotten older, a lot of the masking that I had adapted or was conditioned to have, I feel like the layers started chipping away. Um, Very apparently, my late 20s when I first decided to seek therapy. I feel like I was at a breaking point where the masking was no longer working. It was one of those things where it felt like the definition of insanity, like you're doing the same thing hoping for a different result because that was the only way I knew. And so a lot of that leaked over in school too, and me not having a traditional college experience, for the longest time I always wanted to go to HBCU. I'm a student of Hillman. As a child, I loved the idea of college was, "Yes, please sign me up tomorrow." I hated K through 12. I had senioritis from first day of school. But I always thought about going to college and for whatever reason wasn't able to. I thought I would go to Clark Atlanta. Like I wanted the Hillman experience, honey. But it didn't work out for me. And so taking the non-traditional route, and then once I got into college and then realizing that um I had this weird duality of I love the freedom that college gives you in terms of you can choose what you want to study. You can choose the class, you can choose the professor, you can choose the days and the times. Like, as much as I loved and look forward to having that many options, it also um, made me feel very overwhelmed to where I just kind of froze. And I know there's a terminology, I came across it. Is it decision disorder, dysfunction? Whatever the term is, child. But execution dysfunction? Whatever the term is, but pretty much like I had too many options that my brain went into overload, overwhelmed. So now we're just gonna freeze. It's like all of a sudden your phone is hot and it's like we're gonna cease charging until your phone gets to regular temperature. And I feel like that's how I felt for a very large portion of my 20s. We had to move around a lot. There was this period of, you know, being unhoused and just it was a constant survival mode. So being in school, like it's something that I had on the back of my mind, and also not wanting to fail the expectations set by my family, especially the elders of and being the oldest grandchild and the older sibling for my sister. There's a lot of pressure and expectations that for you to set the tone for what is to be expected for the ones coming behind you, and feeling like a failure, even being told to a certain extent that you're whack or you're not where you should be, a la blooming lately, where that all attributed to me being a late bloomer in so many different areas because not either having the exposure to it, a mixture of being, so sheltered as a kid, like, there was just a lot of ways that, um, I just wasn't allowed to experience things out of fear of other people's fear that were imposed on me or, very strict rules that to limit me, and then me masking and being so rule governed and fear, like, anything that felt unsafe scared me because I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to be punished. I didn't want to be shamed or embarrassed. Like, don't do that to me. I don't need to go through it in order to learn. I learned from a lot of people, which also had the double edged sword of not only protecting me, but also keeping me from just living life and figuring things out on my own. Caused me to question my judgment, not really knowing my own voice. Really just dialing down the volume on my, intuition because I just was never given the opportunity to think for myself, for me to have my own problem solving and critical thinking as it pertained to my own life. It was just like, "Here's what you need to do and not do, and don't do it, period." And so in a lot of ways, I still carry that, and I'm been doing the work diligently through therapy to unlearn that, and to, um, really reclaim, like, seeing the content about free will. I have been indulging in all of that. We have many superpowers as millennials, and I will big them up anytime I come across them, but seeing us and the younger generations just, really embracing will and be like, "Why can't I open up every box of cereal? Why do I have to wait for one to finish to open the next one?" Now, granted, yes, we know the value of money and we are the adults that are working and the world is ghetto and expensive as hell. So we are now learning, maybe, but also if I want to have a different kind of cereal today, I can because I want to and I earned it. The fuck? Like, so even at the very small surface level item. Like that's just a way to exercise like free will, like being able to question and challenge things, the status quo. Oh, think, well, that's just the way we've always done it. Well, we're on fire as a society. The world is on fire. I don't think that still sticks. I don't think y'all can use that as the default anymore and expect us to fall in line because in all of the areas that we have fallen in line, us millennials, shout out to you, we did. We believed that we were the children of the future, and we fell for all of the propaganda of, education, education, which, yes, education is essential and you should. But that whole, oh, if you do what you need to do and you go to school and there's going to be a good paying job and then you'll get the American dream. I'm speaking from an American experience. Put that out there because we have international listeners. Hey, y'all. From an American perspective, disclaimer, you get the house at the picket fence and all that. Whether you want it or not, you were told that you were promised that. As long as you go to school, you get good grades and you get a good job. Where's the job? Where's the high paying job? Went back to school, got the degree. I feel scammed. Instead, I incurred debt. That's the other part they didn't tell us about when they were telling us that we were the children of the future, right? They didn't tell us about the student loan debt and that the college and that part of it, the capitalism part, was the biggest scam. Hmm? And Uncle Tom. Well, well, yes, them too. Uncle Sam is who I meant. Mm, just setting us up. But all in that to say, what I struggled with in school and going through the process of being evaluated for ADHD. And my very first therapist was like, get a little neuro spiciness in you. I don't know which flavor of spice, but there's some neuro spicy about you, boo. So keeping that in the back of my mind when I went back to school in 2020, pretty much the mindset that I was in, I have been an administrative professional for a very long time now. I even so much so that in middle school, I was a student assistant working in the office. Like my work experience goes back to 2002. Yeah, 2002, 2003. Baby, I am seasoned as an administrative support person. Customer service ingrained. Follow the rules, following procedures, organizing, managing inventory, responding to emails and all kinds of correspondence, editing, managing calendars and schedules, all kinds of things because I excel in that. I'm a people person more than um, I even admit or accept about myself. I guess I have that personality. Um, that people just kind of gravitate towards me. And I like being resourceful and helping people. I'm always looking for information and finding ways to streamline things. So, and being, even though I haven't been able to apply my problem solving or critical thinking skills to my own personal life, those are still superpowers that I have and excel at when it comes to work. And then me loving event planning ties that all in. Like anything where maybe this is the more I talk, I feel like it solidifies the ADHD diagnosis. Um, I thrive under pressure. I immediately tap into critical thinking, problem solving. Like, what do we need to do? What we need to get it done. And it is very exhilarating. Like something about that, like it hits. I'm getting that adrenaline rush. Like, let me go. I gotta finish this. Like the chasing the finish line. So much so that my other superpower is procrastination. So I often am like, yeah, I got mad time. That paper's not due till when? 3 weeks from now? Girl, bye. I got other stuff to do. Even if I started to just research and see, okay, let me at least get 5 sources, especially if it's a class where each part of the paper is a different assignment. I got it. But the full paper, I'm not working on it that whole time. Absolutely the fuck not. You got me like 42 to 72 hours where I'm like, okay, the clock is ticking. 11:59. My personal goal is to get it in and submit it at 11:58. Okay, because sometimes the internet, you just got to buff, and then, these teachers are savvy. It'll cut off where you can no longer submit, and they're not taking emails or exceptions. So my personal goal was to get in at 11:58. Amen. And so I not realizing me thriving through procrastination is me recreating that pressure cooker feeling, that adrenaline where because my mind has multiple tabs open and when I'm trying to focus on one thing, I'm like, oh, did I do this? Did I forget to do that? Oh man, what about this? Squirrel moments, the distractions, because I have to tap in to knock out these pages or whatever other project, I will wait until the clock is about to run out because that's the only time I could tap in. And unfortunately, it's reinforced because I'm rewarded for that by having good grades, having a published article. Shout out to me again. Pick up yourself when you can. Um, so being rewarded for my procrastination habits, terrible way for me to learn because I operate from a reward system. And if it's yielding positive results, whether it's good grades, me actually retaining the information and proving to myself that one, I'm capable of doing it. Even though I'm stressed and freaked out and my anxiety's on 1,000, I got this. I'm competent. I can completely do I can put a coherent paragraph and paper together and it get, like, graded. What? No. That is the worst habit that I've learned. It would be different if it's procrastination and I fail. Then it's like, "Okay." Now, it's not working. We got to try something different. But for me to be able to excel and thrive through procrastination, man. Also, multitasking. I used to be great at multitasking, not realizing that my version is from a very particular rose-colored ADHD lens because the multitasking is all the different tabs and I'm just going back and forth all at the same time, trying to recreate the adrenaline rush of like, "Oh my god, I have so many things to do. I can figure this out. I can problem solve. I can prioritize. I can" Ah! All of that since being in my 30s. I'm 36, amen, about to be 37. God is good. I can't do that anymore. My brain, my memory, child. Nowadays, clearly I've been missing words and said Uncle Tom instead of Uncle Sam at the beginning, not too long ago. So it's all jumbled and scrambled. Again, the masking, the closer and closer to 40, where people you reach that like I don't give a fuck anymore or giving less of a fuck. I am approaching that, and I think that's a lot of us. And I'm speaking to Black women specifically because like a lot of things, mostly in health and mental health, science and research, we are the most underserved population, which is why a lot of us have reached the point of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And whatever coping mechanisms we had and fail safe systems we set up by way of coping were no longer working. And the masking that we've had for so long is crumbling. It is not sustainable. It no longer gives us the results that we want. If anything, it's causing us to either spiral or crash out, or it's starting to impact us negatively. And we are no longer willing to uphold all kinds of BS because this world, again, is on fire. So what we used to do and what used to work does not apply. And we've seen time and time again that even when we try to still do it, we get screwed over. So it's a mixture of the masking being ineffective and we're getting rid of it, and also coming to terms with, oh no, something's got to change. And I have reached my limit. I cannot no longer. Once we learned about boundaries, oh baby, the world opened up for me. Healthy boundaries, and that is applicable to members of my family and in my close circle of people as well. Not just it's easy to have boundaries at work or other people that you don't really have to deal with all the time, but you can also apply them to your family and your close circle. What? When I came across that and started working on that, my world just free. My phone stays on do not disturb, where I used to be a yapper, certified yapper. Not even really. I was more the therapist friend, but my phone was always available. Since I got an iPhone and there's do not disturb feature, you can't catch me. You'll catch me on my podcast. Shout out to you. Please make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, share, all of the things. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, wherever you're watching this podcast, please make sure you are following, subscribing, and supporting me. Blooming Lately podcast. Had to drop that in there. Unless you're watching me or listening to me, I mean, you'll see me engaging on social media, so wellness is there. Like we're sharing memes and reels and funny content. But whether I'm just available for hours to just hear you complain about the same thing that you're not going to do anything about, no. And I used to do that. One is like, oh, that is the expectation of being a good friend, and two, if I'm wasting my it's true, but I was wasting my time, while also serving you was I was using that as a distraction from dealing with my own shit. Hello? So having a whole bunch of processes whole bunch of things that you're processing, but not really having the answers to it, and as somebody who needs to find the answer, I was dealing with frustration. So being in an environment where nothing was answered or explained to you, you just had to figure it out, and me being a creative kid, that was also a curse. Because now if I don't have the answers and I can't get the access to the answers, now I'm gonna come up with something just to help my mind soothe. Because this seems right and this seems to be rationalized. No, no, not. But forgot where I was going with this. Started ranting. Squirrel, squirrel, school. Back at it again. So, yeah, I went back to school 2020 during the panini press. Being in school and working full time, I think is what helped me get through COVID. All kinds of anxiety and me having mild OCD, especially with being a germaphobe. Child. Wiping down the groceries, disinfecting all the things. Having school and work. School mostly because we had to do COVID tracking at work and tracing and all that. And the case, it just felt so heavy that school was honestly able to be my great escape. And the campus that I picked is a small school. Like it felt like a very traditional college experience. It's no Hillman because it's not. It's a PWI. It's not a HBCU. I wish it were. But I was able to create that experience and shout out to them having an evening program dedicated for people who work full time. So we still had on campus activities. I was a part of the Black Student Union. Shout out to y'all. So I was able to find my way in. There wasn't much of a Divine Nine presence on campus. I'm not sure if I would have pledged or not, but it would have been cool to see that process. I think there are Zetas. I think there's a chapter there. Did not see Deltas. AKAs or any of the other. Um, but I appreciated that. Like I know, again, trying to come up, I'm working from the symptoms and the side effects to get closer and closer. I'm trying to get to the root of what is going on here. Um, but realizing that I thrive in small class settings. I need to be held accountable. I need someone to be like, "Hey, Kris. Hey, you back there. You got to know my name." Whenever I've tried many of the college experiences before. Being in a lecture hall class, oh, the worst for me, honey. You telling me this professor will never know me? They just know attendance because we all had to write our names, and most of the time, people were writing their other friends' names who didn't show up to class. And yes, you had office hours, but you're like, which class are you in again? And now I got to explain the whole thing, and only for you to refer me back to your syllabus. No. I was in there having a good time just in my mental playhouse in them classes. It was immediately sat down, womp, 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 and don't let it be science or math. God help me. Oh, if we're not going to do an experiment, blow something up, s- l- do something fun. I hated dissections. Blech. Gross. I didn't want any parts of anatomy. No biology in that way. Nope, nope, nope. Chemistry was interesting because you get to do things and light things up, see all that kind of stuff. But the math is where you lose me because now you're speaking a different language. Why are we merging letters and numbers together? Why are we finding X and solving for Y? Do they want to be found? Who cares about the inner slope form? No. Tan, cosine. No. The angles of the triangle. Okay, 90, 40 degrees, isosceles. Okay, that just felt it's all important depending on what you're gonna do. For me and mine, where I just wanted to be in electives all the time. One of my favorite classes in high school, we did all kinds of stuff. It was graphic design, we made license plates, we developed photos, we did screen printing. This was all throughout the course of the year. That class just did all kinds of different media. That's where I thrive the most. Freedom of expression. So to be in a lecture hall class, absolutely not. No, small class setting. So I said, if I'm gonna go back to school, I'm gonna do it the right way. I'm gonna study what it is that I'm interested in at the moment or gets me closer to my overall goal. Because when I first tried going to college, me and I even worked in the career development department. Shout out to y'all. It was a great experience, but also very frustrating for me because I did every kind of assessment. Personality, I was always trying to find out. Poor baby Kris. I was always trying to find out what was wrong what was wrong with me, essentially. Because I was always envious and admired people who knew what they wanted to be and stuck through it. Or if or maybe they found out about it and that's like, okay, that's it. They were able to make a decision, go through. I was just trying to figure it out always. I was told that I should be doing this. The expectations are I should be doing this. But then the money element, me and the occupational handbook went like this. Every other day, I was like, "Oh, I should change my major to this. I should change my because this the career outlook for this. Oh, you should be making this at this point in your career." All a scam because it's 2026 and we are not that part. But even then, I stuck with general studies because I was just too overwhelmed by the options. And then it was like, oh God, how many classes am I going to have to take? Because, of course, I look for the career. Okay, this is how much it's going to make. Oh, I can see myself living a comfortable life. Now, let me roll it back. What kind of major is that? Look at the major. Then I'm looking up the course descriptions and I'm like, God, that's a lot of math. Not gonna do that. Oh, that requires science. Oh, that requires this. Not gonna do that. And then all of the artsy stuff that I wanna do is like, the career outlook for that, not looking very well. I love fashion and design. In my heart, I still wanna put together a fashion show. So even then, I was always trying to supplement and make the best out of my experience, whether I would be a part of the fashion club or planning events. I still carried that from school into my work life as an administrative assistant. So it's like I always had my safety role, which is something that was tried and true. And I know I can't fuck it up. Like I've had proven history and evaluations proven that you can do your job. You're very competent. You can do your work as a support personnel. But I felt stuck because I'm limited in what I can do creatively. Um, so I would always, again, try to make the best out of my current situation. So, yes, I am the administrative secretary or administrative assistant, but I'm going to be the first person to plan all of the office parties or coordinate these different activities or teach an art class. I even did that. So, always trying to find a way to make the best out of my current situation, but always still feeling like, damn, why can't I get out? Why can't I find a route that would yield like successful results? Why can't I make this my life? Um, and so I am in that phase, and I guess that's what I'm doing with this space and just working my best to be consistent with it and trying not to overthink and just be authentic with my messaging and being gracious to myself that again my message, we are not late, we're just blooming on our own time, and I need to also give myself time to bloom into whatever that is and not be in control of it too much. So this episode, shout out to you millennials, shout out to you black women who are um, going through the process of feeling like something is off and then maybe I should go get evaluated. Please do. If you have the access to healthcare or mental health services, please go get evaluated. Sis, I feel you. There's nothing wrong with you. Once I started feeling like the light bulb and getting like going along the process, it feels so validating to be like, I'm not crazy. I'm not lazy. I am not stubborn. I'm not incapable. My brain is just wired differently. It processes information differently. It does yes, you'll go through the stages of grief and being frustrated for the younger version of you up until this current version of you that has struggled. Um, it will be freeing. So I hope, and I will keep you updated with where I am in this process, all the way to the diagnosis. Hopefully, comes soon, and then looking into the resources um, for how I can tackle the challenges that I've been facing, but through like specifically labeling ADHD, how to help this, but for people with ADHD or whatever my diagnosis is, and seeing like how that can help me evolve and get over a lot of these blocks that I've had and overcome the challenges that I've faced for a very, very long time. So, that said, I will leave you there. But if you're interested in going back to school, school's not going anywhere, y'all. Y'all can go back. I definitely want to go get my master's. I also don't want to have to pay for it. Amen. I'm hoping for these current student loan debt to be forgiven and wiped clean. Education is always there. Where I struggled and hated doing as a kid, I ended up being an honor student and being in an honor society when I decided that I needed to pick the right environment, I needed to pick the right area of studies. Communication studies happens to be that for me. It was broad enough, but specific enough to where I can work in entertainment, work in media. There's areas for me to be creative. And it also taps into my love of research and getting the answers of things. A la, again, my published article, Howard Journal of Communications. I will always big myself up because I haven't been very good about that, but I'm going to keep reminding myself. Um, and I hope to do more. And I want to do more communication theory on this platform. And hopefully even invite some of my professors on who were life changing. And I went back a couple weeks ago to our alumni weekend, and one of my favorite professors was doing a session, and I went and we reconnected, and he remembered me. Shout out to you, Dr. Baumel. And I did 3 of his courses: conflict and communication, listening, and what is the third one? Leadership. Yes, leadership class. So, and he's a published author, does amazing things. So I would love to have Dr. Baumel on, and you guys will fall in love with him too. And his wife has a really dope story of being a ballroom dancer on America's Got Talent. She's made it all the way to the tops. Like, this woman is amazing at 80 years old. Shout out to you. But please get the diagnosis if you can. If you can find the access to it, I'll find whatever resources and I'll link them here. But please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a comment, all of the things, depending on what platform you're on. I'm trying to get views. I am not trying to compare myself to other podcasts. I'm trying not to let that get into my psyche, because then I'll get overwhelmed and not want to do anything. My own personal goal is to be consistent. And when I find that there's a message that comes through to me and I want to hit record, is to just be as authentic and invite awesome people on who I can have genuine conversations with. That is what I want to do with the Blooming Lately podcast. And I feel like I have honestly been doing that. So I've just been focusing on staying in my lane and staying what feels true to me. But I know, in order to get the access and the opportunities that I desire, views and likes and subscribers are important metrics that I need to have in order to support possible sponsorships or being invited to host, special events or things of that nature. I need support. So this is me asking you to please follow, like, subscribe, share, leave a beautiful comment. Please refer this episode or other episodes of mine to someone that you feel like, could appreciate the message. Let's keep the bloomies growing. There's room for plenty of us. But with that said, I will leave you and talk to you later, bloomies. Bye.